Director Stefano Miller brings us Alien Invasion: Rise of the Phoenix. And this is a kind of low budget, well, alien invasion movie, I guess you want to say. Now, this is kind of like the movie Alien in a way, or more specifically, it's kind of like those Alien rip-off movies that we got in the wake of Alien and Aliens. It almost feels like a throwback to the good old days of the early mockbusters. So, the story interestingly has two locations. One in space, on this kind of space station, and one in this kind of out in the open, in the kind of the deserts of America somewhere. And we have a kind of team of scientists on Earth kind of doing some experiments, communicating with this space station. They're trying to do some type of teleportation experiment, and it seems to be successful. But not long after that, there is a meteor shower which hits both the space station and Earth. And these meteors appear to be almost like alien spores, who kind of, if they touch a human, they'll infect them, or otherwise they kind of turn into kind of like pods, presumably gonna hatch something out. And it kind of, the action flips between both the space station dealing with this emerging alien menace, and along with some scenes on Earth as well, culminating in a kind of kaiju-sized giant rock monster erupting from a mountainside. The only recognisable face here is going to be Michael Paré, really in a cameo role in kind of flashbacks more than anything else. What will happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. So, what works in this movie's favour? Now, this is a low-budget movie, clearly, but I will say I kind of like some of the effects here. So we have a mix of practical VFX and sort of CGI. Let's kind of go through it. So the practical VFX, we have a sort of alien style costume. I thought it was alright. I mean, it's nothing special. It's a man in a suit. But I thought it looked okay. We don't see huge amounts of it actually. And they do actually do some scenes with CGI in regards to the human-sized kind of aliens. But there are some sort of practical shots, and I thought it looked alright, you know, pretty decent sort of, again, one of these alien rip-off movies that you've got in the kind of like the 80s and stuff like that, similar to that really, but it looks alright. And I do think, you know, for a kind of low-budget, hokey movie, some of the kind of the set design in regards to this space station, it looks fun. I'm not going to say it looks realistic. It looks fun in a low-budget space station kind of way. And they're clearly kind of modelling it after Aliens with this kind of corridors. We see scenes where they've kind of cobbled together kind of flamethrowers, and they're kind of like, you know, walking around like aliens really, things like that. So, you know, there's some sorts of low-budget, fun, schlocky kind of set design and props and stuff like that that I kind of quite liked. CGI, again, it's not the best ever, but we have this huge rock monster that kind of burst out this mountainside. Not that it does a whole lot, to be honest with you, but, you know, it's kind of a fun visual. You know, I thought it was all right. The animation's a bit, seems to be lacking a few frames here and there, but, you know, it wasn't terrible. I've seen worse. So there was a kind of some fun low-budget effects. I think the decision here to have the action kind of toggle between the space station and the kind of different cast of characters on Earth gives it some variety and sort of, you know, other sort of characters. Then we get a little bit of, you know, characterization of these two estranged sisters, one on Earth and one in space. But it does kind of break up the movie. You get, I would say, about 60, maybe 65% takes place in space, and the rest kind of takes place on Earth. It's kind of like a no-brainer time waster in some respects. You know, silly kind of science fiction ideas that don't really make too much sense, to be honest. You know, lots of kind of like monsters, and talk about, oh, we've got to do this, that and the other to try and kind of like get the algorithm to do this right, and everything's got to line up, yada yada, lots of kind of pseudoscience and stuff. Yeah, it has an amount of kind of cheesy fun. Okay, maybe what doesn't work in this movie, it doesn't really make much sense, to be honest. It just seems to kind of like garble on and kind of like kind of tilt forward really, without really kind of giving you too much of a kind of strong narrative behind it. It just seems to kind of like stumble into the next scene without really kind of giving you a lot of context or really any idea about what the characters are and what they're supposed to be doing and things like this. It just seems to things start to happen really, and you just go, okay, well that's great. And we have this kind of like these two sisters that are estranged, and we have all these kind of flashbacks about their father, Michael Paré, and you think there's going to be some type of reconciliation. Not really, to be honest. It just seems like, why have that? So we have these like odd choices of sort of, of really kind of quite paper thin characters, but we do have some characterization, but then not a lot is done with it. Weird. I think the biggest issue really is, I think the dialogue and the acting is equal parts quite poor, unfortunately. Yeah, the dialogue's is not great. It just seems to be like people don't really sort of seem to genuinely know what they're talking about and stuff. I know they're actors and I know they're not really, obviously. But for example, they refer to this meteor shower as a meteor swarm, which I found like an odd phrase to use and things like this. And well, they're not swarming, are they? I mean, it's a meteor shower. Surely that's the phrase you would use. Anyway, and like stuff like that. So there's kind of like, the dialogue isn't particularly strong. The conversations between people seem remarkably cheesy. There's this whole big thing, we need this particular chip, and this other woman goes, it just so happens I found this chip, and oh my god, And then the delivery of these lines isn't particularly strong. So it all comes across as kind of like fairly sort of cobbled together without really kind of a thought on a strong narrative with kind of like interesting sort of characters, with a line delivery here that's sort of delivered in a really any type of convincing way. I mean, this is not like a comedy really. This is the characters are meant to be taken this somewhat kind of seriously, and it all seems, like it's not put together. Like on the space station, it just seems to be lots of running around corridors. Or like talking, in rooms really. Let's just say, let's go running around some more corridors, and great, then we'll have this random alien attack, and there's one sequence which it seems to attack our main character, June, but then it's kind of like, well, what happened there? And it's just like, it seems to attack her, but then she's just fine in the next scene. Who knows? It just seems like such a cobbled together movie. Maybe it's got some entertainment value, but it's really sort of not a good movie that's been put together here. It's just kind of like some fun scenes, some kind of fun effects, some okay set design, but it's just really, the film around it is relatively silly. Very, very silly. But if you like those hokey alien rip-off movies from the 80s, you may want to check it out. I'll give it a 4 out of 10. Have you seen it? What do you think? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.